When finding the surface area of a cylinder, again, I like to think about the types of surfaces that it has when I'm trying to find the surface area. So let's look at the types of faces or surfaces that it actually has. So we know our cylinder has two circular faces, and they're joined together by, if you look at the net of a cylinder, they're joined together by what is actually a rectangular surface. It ends up curved around. So in this case, if we look at the ends of the cylinder, the area of those is found by pi r squared because they're circles. So therefore, to get both of them together, you could do 2 pi r squared. So those ones can be straightforward. If you look at the rectangular, when it's unfolded, surface of the cylinder, you can see that one of the height is still exactly the same. So that's the height there. You can see that that corresponds. But if we're thinking about this, because it's rectangular, we need to find the length. What is the length? The length actually corresponds to, you can see, what goes on around here. So that is actually the circumference of the circle. So the circumference of the circle can be found two ways. You can find that by doing pi times by the diameter, or 2 pi r. Essentially, they're exactly the same because you know twice the radius is the diameter. So therefore, to work out the area of the rectangular surface that joins the two circular ends of the cylinder together, we need to do the rectangle, length times width, so pi times by diameter times by height. So then the total surface area is going to be adding those two together, which is going to be equal to 2 pi r squared, the two circular surfaces, plus pi times by the diameter times by the height. Just be careful if using the radius measurement that it can also be, surface area can also be equal to 2 pi r squared, so the same thing for the two circular surfaces, plus 2 pi r h if you end up using the radius measurement for finding the circumference or the length, in this case, of the rectangular piece. Using your algebraic knowledge, you might be able to then work out or see possibly, doesn't matter if you do or you don't, that you can actually take out a highest common factor between both of these two terms. They both have 2 pi r in them. So 2 pi r, take that out of both by factorising, leaves us with only an r on this side and leaves us with an h on that side. So sometimes you'll see the total surface area formula for a cylinder look like that red one down the bottom. So essentially there's 3 different ways you can do it. Whichever way makes sense to you, use it. Let's now apply the formulas to find the total surface area of some cylinders. I'm going to use the 3 different formulas with a couple of different cylinders. So you can see in this case we have the radius of 5 and a height of 10. So let's go and apply that by putting it into the formula. First one is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. So 2 times by pi of 3.14 times by 5 squared, which is 25. Put that in straight away because I know that. Add 2 times by 3.14 of pi times by the radius, which is 5, times by the height, which is 10. Okay, let's go and work those out. So 2 times by 3.14 is going to be equal to 6.28 times by 5 squared, which is 25. 157 is the left-hand side of the equation, plus 2 times 3.14 times 5 times 10 is equal to 314. If we add those two values together, we have an answer of 471. Our units, because it is surface area, is centimetres squared. Let's have a look at the second cylinder. Same cylinder, so we should get the exact same values, but you can see that I'm using the formula that has been factorised. You might find this easier, you might find this more difficult. Whatever works with your mind is spot on. So let's just plug the values into this formula. So 2 times by pi, which is 3.14, times by the radius, and that's all going to be multiplied by what's in the brackets. So r plus h, radius plus height, 5 plus 10. So therefore that is going to be equal to 6.28 times 5 times by what's in the brackets there. 5 plus 10 is 15. So our answer into the calculator, hopefully we get to the same answer, 6.28 times by 5 times by 15 is equal to 471 centimetres squared for our surface area. So the final formula, you see it's a different cylinder, different values, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to use the other formula that you could possibly use. You can see that we have the 2 pi r squareds for the two circular surfaces, and then the pi times by diameter times by the height for the rectangular wrapping around surface. Let's now plug that into the formula to get the right answer. So for the circular ones, 2 times by pi, which is 3.14, times by our radius squared, so that is 2 squared, plus, put that in brackets, pi times the diameter, which is 4, times by the height, which is 5.8. Calculate those. So we are going to have 2 times by 3.14 times by 2 squared, which is going to give us 25.12. On the other side, 3.14 of pi times by 4 times by 5.8 is going to give us 72.848. Add those two together. We have the answer of 97.968, which rounded off to 2 decimal places is 97.97 centimetres squared, because we are finding total surface area. If we had used the other formula, 2 pi r plus h, it would have been 2 times by 3.14 times by the radius, which is 2, all multiplied by what's in the brackets, which is 2 plus 5.8. So that would have been equal to 6.28 times by 2 times by 7.8. So just checking using the other formula, 6.28 times by 2 times by 6.28 times by 2 times by 7.8 gives us 97.968, which is 97.97, which is the exact same answer. Remembering that total surface area is area, so it is square units. So 97.97 centimetres squared, correct, rounded to 2 decimal points. Just things to remember are: be careful with your radius and diameter, and be careful with which formula works for you. Thinking about the net, thinking about what are the surfaces and the areas you need to find. So whichever technique or whichever formula works for you, then use what suits you best. Click anywhere on screen now for some questions involving the total surface area of cylinders.